There's a couple of laws that I love that I wanted to pick out for you. So to just mention a bit, because I think these are really, really interesting. So this one is Law 29, plan all the way to the end.
Right.
And I wanted to ask you how one actually does that. And I know you talk about in the book, which I want to say for people, but for today's conversation, I'd love to know, how do you plan to the end when sometimes it's really hard to know what's next and what the end is? And I think so many people today are, in jobs for less time. They're moving quicker. There's so many more opportunities, new technologies. What does it mean to plan to the end?
Well, it's a thought process. So as you point out well enough, that things come up that you can't foresee, circumstances, things change, and the ending that you plan for doesn't happen the way you want it to. That's fine. But to the degree that you go through a mental process and you think about the ending and you have a goal in mind, you're going to be much more effective in life. So when something comes up, you're planning to go here and it forces you that way, you're better prepared to take that circumstance and make it maybe veer a little closer to the point that you want, right? So people, the main point of that law is that we are all go around with these dreams and these thoughts and these plans that are so vague. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to direct a movie. I'm going to start a tech startup that's going to make billions of dollars, blah, blah, blah. And then we maybe go through a kind of half-hearted process. Yeah, my book's going to be about this. Yeah, my business will be like that, right? And then you don't really plan deeply enough. You don't think, because your plans are infected with wishes,
yes.
right?
Yes.
And to me, the kind of the model of that is the invasion of Iraq by all of these extremely prudent, strategic men like Dick Cheney, etc. They thought that we would be greeted as liberators with people with flowers in their hand, and then lo and behold, whoa, this nasty, nasty war in which hundreds of thousands of people are killed ensued. They didn't realize that their plans were infected with their dreams, with what I call the rosy scenario. So when you're going to go sell this movie that you want to, you're imagining that people already love it. You've already convinced yourself, but you don't realize that people are cold, they're indifferent. So if you plan to the end, you think about the goal, you think about the other people, you think about steps A, B, C, D, E to get there. You're more concrete. And then when things come up, as Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan until you get hit in the face, right? Okay, you get hit in the face. Yeah, all right, I got to change my plan a little bit.
Yes.
You're able to adapt. But if you're not thinking clearly about the end, you're in deep, deep doo-doo.
Yes.
That book will never get written, or if you do start it, no one's going to be interested in it, etc. You have to plan more deeply. And the closer you can visualize the ending and be realistic, the greater your chances of success. That's sort of...
A lot of people would say, but Robert, if I comprehend them, then I just get disenthused, or I feel limited, and I just feel like it's overwhelming. Discouraged, that's the word I was looking for. Yes, discouraged. I feel so discouraged and overwhelmed, and it's too much for me. So how do you think about the end but avoid that feeling? Well, I guess you can't avoid that feeling, but you work through it.
Well, I mean, do you want just the dream? Do you just want the vision of the great thing you're going to achieve, or do you want the reality, right? And so, if you're going to, let's say you want to write a book. I know that's very lazy of me because that's what I do.
Well, I'm writing my second book right now, so this will be very helpful for me.
Okay. All right. It's a pretty enormous thing usually. I mean, if you're somewhat ambitious, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to involve a lot of work and thinking and planning, right? But if you overdo the thinking, if you think about it, every little thing is planned ahead of time, then the process kind of loses its joy and its excitement. Mm-hmm. It seems overplanned, right? But you want to have a vision. Whenever I start a book, I have an overall vision of what I want the reader to feel from it, what I want them to learn from it, right? Okay, and so then I plot very carefully the ways to get there. But yeah, it's going to take 3 or 4 years. Yeah, it's overwhelming. Yeah, it's daunting. So what you do is you back off and you create little micro goals. So I'm planning all the way to the end means to the end of July right?
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm going to plan to the end of July, and by July 31st, I am going to have written 10 pages. I'm going to have done this chapter. I'm done this research. Then maybe then it doesn't seem quite so daunting, and then you can maybe extend it out a few more months. And lo and behold, the little baby steps you take, you're suddenly halfway there. Wow, it's really not as difficult as I thought. So you break it down. People, it just drives me crazy, can only think in terms of black and white. Oh, plan all the way to the end. Oh, think about that. No, it's planning all the steps along the way.
Yeah.
There's a balance involved, right? So if you do these little baby steps and you give yourself goals, if you have to work on your own, you're starting you're your own boss. It's maddening because nobody's pushing you. You have to create continual deadlines. I do this to myself. By this date, I have to have this much written, right? And it kind of engages your spirit, it gets your emotions going, it makes you realize you have a deadline, you have to get there, and it energizes you. Whereas that vague feeling of, oh, I want to write a book, okay, blah, 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 it's actually more daunting. There's less energy involved because you never feel like that. I call it in my war book death ground strategy. When an army's back is against a mountain or the ocean, they fight like hell to get out of it because there's desperate and it's either win or die. You have to have that approach with your book or something. If I don't get this done by July 31st, I'm in trouble. I better hurry up and do it. So break it down and don't always every single day think of, oh my God, it's going to take so many years, etc. That's in the back of your head. You have a vision, but you have other little ends that you're continually planning towards.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I think like that's the challenge, right? Like when you're writing the page, you're thinking about the book. And when you're writing about a chapter, you're thinking about the book launch. And it's like you're thinking about something way bigger than what you actually have to do right now, but it's what you do right now that's going to get that bigger thing. And I think if all you did was wake up and say, I just have to write a page today, which is that micro step you're speaking of, then I don't think I have to write a book. Writing a book is daunting and overwhelming, but writing a page or writing a paragraph, if that's where you're at, like wherever you're at, a line, like if that's the case, that baby step is what you want to wake up and fixate on. I think it's the same with anything, whether you're launching a podcast, I'm being lazy, whether you're launching like you said, launching a company, whether you're starting a new brand or whatever it may be. The problem is we're thinking like, I need to do this. I need to do that thing on the front cover of Forbes magazine. And it's like, that's not what you're doing. Like, this is what you're doing, right? So,
yeah, I mean, people who are great craftsmen, and I have a book called Mastery,
yes,
which I discuss the process of creating something. If you look at craftspeople, somebody who's building a house or an architect, they can't sit there and just suddenly have it happen. They have to go brick by brick by brick. They have to lay a foundation. They have to focus on the foundation, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, they have an overall vision of what the house will look like. So if you're only focused on the day-to-day, it loses a little bit of spirit. So you need to allow yourself a little bit of dreaming. I dream all the time. I'm being interviewed by Jay Shetty while I'm writing the book. I'm on the cover of some other great magazine, whatever,
Right.
You allow yourself to have it because it gives you kind of energy.
So you need both again.
You need both. You need a balance.
Yes.
But a little bit more towards the micro ends, and then occasionally, when it's finished, I'm going to have this. It'll be wonderful because that'll keep your energy up.
Got it. Yeah.